Hello, welcome to Gardener's World live here in the middle of Birmingham.
Yes, it's a flower show. It's got show gardens, a huge floral marquee, beds and borders to inspire, plants to buy, and a barrow full of ideas to take home to your garden.
And what Francis and I and the whole of the rest of the team particularly love about this show is that it's our show and it's your show. It's a chance for all of us to get together and share that one common passion, love of everything to do with gardens. Francis and I are here in the Watchmaker's Garden, which won Best in Show. It's designed by Alexandra Froggatt, and it's very special, I think. It's got an awful lot to it. It's based upon the watchmakers that were part of the jewellery quarter, which was really important here in Birmingham. And the notion is this is where a watchmaker worked at the turn of the 19th to 20th century, and outside is his garden. But he was some gardener. I mean, he grew a decent vegetable or two.
And the lovely thing about these is that they're all kind of heirloom varieties, but they're so perfect, aren't they? They're so incredible.
Well, what I find interesting in a garden like this, where the detail is right down to the sort of little piles of dirt and the nettles.
I know, down there on the grate.
And the way that the water butt is silted up and he's growing watercress in it and that sort of thing. And you see the lovely wild flowers growing there. But when it comes to vegetables, they are immaculate and perfect.
Would you like to see one that's maybe slightly bolted?
Well, it would be interesting, wouldn't it? But I think that what is fun about a garden like this is that you have the mixture of horticulture and a kind of a whole novel. There's a world here.
There is, but that so often crosses, don't you find, that your hobbies as a gardener are so often the same as other people who do other crafts. They all cross over and there is that connection.
But finally, amongst the many good things about this garden, I really like the way that you can come in.
Yes.
Anybody can come in, have a good look round. It's not very often that you can really have a nosy around. Now, talking about nosing around, Joe is going to show us around some of the other gardens here at Gardeners World Live.
Yeah, there's certainly plenty of inspiration and drama this year. Look at this garden. It's called Revelation. It's the largest show garden here. This is designed by Mike Baldwin and the team at Derby College. There's over 75 students been involved in designing and building this garden. And it's one that the visitors to the show can explore. As you turn the first corner, it's not what you would expect at all. And the great thing is that the students had study days at Great British Gardens like Hester Coombs, Sissinghurst and Great Dixter. And so there's a cornucopia of different style gardens. And I love this first one where you've got this tropical style planting. This has definitely been inspired by Great Dixter. Now this space has a very different, tranquil, reflective feel about it. Plenty of water, and the planting with the Orlea, the Onopodum, and the Stachys, it's definitely got a nod to Sissinghurst. And this is the peaceful garden, mainly greens, and of course, a great British oak. You can almost hear the classical music playing in this garden. This is the Love Garden. And here we have a love bower made of birch and hazel, much more cottagey style planting in here. And this is the last one, the Garden of Joy, or the Garden of Fun, as I call it. And can you imagine being a horticulture student working on this vast project? And here at the show, they're going to get immediate feedback from all the visitors that can walk through here. To plant a garden is to believe in tomorrow. How true. That's a quote by Audrey Hepburn. And this is the Macmillan Legacy Garden, designed by Martin Wilson. And it's an incredibly simple layout, but it works beautifully well. So on either side of the path, we've got at least 1.5 meters of planting. And then at the back, there's way beyond 2 meters, which gives real depth. And it's so simple, but it works brilliantly well. Then I like the way he's created these gifts, which are these large containers, and I like the way they're placed within the planting area. They're not just placed on the paving, adding plenty of height and volume and a nice rhythm to the space as well. And what I like about this garden is, on one level, it's incredibly simple, but the planting adds so much depth and interest. It really keeps the focus within this small space. There are two front gardens here as part of the Young Landscapers Awards, and two landscapers on this side are competing with their neighbours on the other side over there. And what I like about these gardens is they are perfectly realistic to work in someone's front garden. I wouldn't want to choose between the two of them. They both look fantastic to me, but I do fancy spinning that car. Hello, can you pass the keys out?
Mind the gap. You're always hearing gardeners talking about the June gap. That period after spring flowers have finished and before summer's exuberance really gets going. But here in the Floral Marquee, there are loads of ideas to keep the colour going in your garden. Pop in a poppy, dig in a digitalis, create colour with a cosmos, but most importantly, put them all together in winning combinations. And how about this for a winning combination? These colours perfectly combine. First of all, on the corner you've got Verbena rigida. It adds this smokiness from its foliage, sprinkled with vivid purple flowers. And then in total contrast, you've got these large heads of Euphorbia polychroma. It's a plant you usually associate with the spring, but it's still going strong in June and it looks perfect with a verbena. And then, just to emphasise that purple colour, in the background you've got Campanula cerastro. This is a campanula, it's a sterile hybrid, so not only will it contribute these big, waxy purple bells all the way through June, but it'll keep on going right the way through the summer. Well, the rose is one plant that's at its very best in June. And no rose could be more beautiful than this one. This is Rosa Jeff Hamilton. But roses need company. They love to be mixed with herbaceous perennials around their stems. Why not use something like this Achillea? It's truly zingy. This is Achillea moonshine, and it's almost fluorescent, but the perfect foil for the rose. And if you want to finish the whole picture, how about a grass or two? This is Anathemale, and its bronze and orange colour pick up the colour of the foliage of the rose and all together create the most beautiful combination, definitely bridging that gap. This jewellery box of a stand is absolutely packed with perfect plants for June. First of all, on this corner, there's Erigeron carbinskianus. It's a little Mexican daisy, and it's the perfect plant for filling in all those spaces in between other plants. And one of its great charms is that its white daisies turn to pink as they age. Exactly the same thing happens in this plant too. This is Nicotiana mutabilis, and here the flowers open white and then become pink. It's an easy annual, grow it from seed each year. And if you want something more solid, in the background is this glorious Eryngium. This is Eryngium Yoseklin, and it's been silver all summer long until this moment. And now it changes to brilliant blue. With plants like these, in combinations like these, you need never endure a summer slump.
This year, we are really keen to meet some of you and help answer those gardening questions. And as we speak, Arit is already out there solving problems.
Fran, it's so nice to meet you.
Thank you.
It's the good thing about being at Garden as well. We get to meet our viewers.
Nice. Thank you for having me.
No, I'm glad you're here. So are you new to gardening as well?
Yes, yeah, I really, I plant things and they live or they don't. And yeah, I'd like it to be a bit more formal than that or a bit more thought through than that.
Tell me, you've got a problem.
I've got a brand new house, a brand new garden, a new build garden.
Let's have a look at it.
There's, as you can see, big blank fences. The neighbours can all see everything that's going on, and just like to make it a bit more private.
Okay.
And beautiful.
I get that picture. I see that a lot, and it can be so overwhelming, can't it?
Yeah, I have no idea where to start.
Okay, so the boundary. Let's think about that boundary and that overview that you're getting from your neighbours. What we want to do is be able to bring in some kind of height to screen out, but something green. Trees are great for bringing privacy into a garden. Your budget and space will define how mature they can be. Young trees are more cost effective but require more patience. For the fence, obviously that expansive wood, really I think it's about bringing in some extra climbers on there. You want to start to be enveloped in the green.
Oh, that would be lovely.
Yeah,
Absolutely
that would be great.
Yeah.
And a couple of tips for the borders. Things like these lovely foxgloves. They're fabulous because they've got some nice height to them. They work well in partial shade. Bare fences can seem daunting, but by growing larger shrubs, taller perennials, or training climbers against them, they will become less obvious over time. So with a bit of patience, a little bit of research, you can certainly start to green up your space.
Oh, that'd be wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The Association of Professional Landscapers has got its own avenue here at the show, and I think it's a fantastic opportunity for designers and landscapers to show the public what they can really do. And this year's theme is all about travel, and I get to have a look around them. This is a really lovely piece of design. It's quite simple. If you imagine looking from above, it's a series of rectangles, but I do love the way the designers played with the levels. In a small space, he sort of made you engage and slow as you move through. Water, not only have they got the sound so you can enjoy that area, but you've got this movement that goes all the way through. Do you know, when it comes to the planting, you do get a real tropical feel, but they're all plants that you can get hold of, so you could do this in your own garden. It works really well. And actually, I've got the young man responsible for it. Hello, Toby.
Hi, nice to see you.
You all right?
Yeah, well, thank you.
Because it's your first garden, isn't it?
Yeah, first show garden. So we've been working as designer for about 18 months now, and we got offered this opportunity, so grabbed it with both hands, and yeah, say really, really chuffed with it.
And so, inspiration, where did it come from?
The brief was a semi-retired couple who have travelled extensively throughout their lives and wanted to reflect some of that in their garden now that the kids have flown the coop and it's just them in the house. I'm not particularly well travelled myself, so it was more ideas that come to me about exotic travel. I've tried to use some bog standard plants as well, like the geums, things that you'd find in a common garden, but actually in this situation it just changes them a little bit.
You could forget you're in the middle of Birmingham.
Yeah, that's the plan.
I think if you keep designing gardens like this, you never know, you might be designing them all over the world.
Here's the plan, thank you very much.
This garden's been inspired by New York, and in particular a place called the High Line, which is a fantastic garden that's been created on an old railway line. And these seats that come out of the ground are a real feature from that space. But what else I like about it is the use of steel. It gives it an urban feel, and this circle, which is an archway, but that shape is picked up in the water feature at the back there, and also in the fire pit. Also look at the planting, and it really demonstrates that you do not need a load of colour to create interest. It plays with verticals, horizontals, texture and form. The last little tip is the direction of the paving. If you imagine back there, that's your house. The moment you change the direction of your terrace, you've got something to build off and really create movement. It's a really cool space. One of the things I love about these show gardens is they're stacked out with ideas that we can use in our own spaces. Here, just at a turning point on a path, there's two myrtles. The scent will pick up, so it's a really easy thing you could do at home. I also love these tanks. they're old cattle tanks, but I love the way that the galvanised colour is picked up in the lavenders. And behind me here, it's a wildflower meadow, and that itself will bring a load of wildlife into your garden. Talking about wildlife, look, 2 clipped rabbits. Sometimes gardening is just about putting a smile on your face.
Hello guys, lovely to meet you now. You're both Gardeners World viewers. You've got a particular challenge in your garden.
Yeah, so we've built a pond basically, and it's standing out. It needs to be integrated into the garden a bit better.
So I can see on the video here the problem that you've got. So the pond's looking great, but you've got a very dry bed around the back of it. There's no transition. So that's why I wanted to show you this area just here. So I think this is working quite well. There's a small pool, there's planting going on in it, but by using these ferns, this is a splenium here, the hosta, and the digitalis at the back, it gives that sort of lushness that fits in with the pond. But I've got some extra recommendations I would like to show you. So there's a few different plants down here. This is Regersia, which is a lovely herbaceous plant. It dies back in the winter. This will come up to between 70 centimetres and about 1 metre high. Lovely lush foliage, so it will create that transition out from the edge of the pond. And it also, once it thickens up, gives great wildlife cover, so frogs can make their way in and out of the pool. For a bit of contrast to that, I reckon it's well worth trying a miscanthus, and this is one called Morning Light. What's nice about this is it's quite vertical. It'll go up to about 5 foot or so. And if you plant it at the back of the pond, you'll of course get those lovely reflections. And then it also will integrate if you're using reeds or iris or similar things in the pond. That sort of style or feel of the foliage will
we do have reeds actually. Yeah, we do have reeds in the pond, and that's looking good.
My final recommendation is this. This is Ligularia, and I think it's absolutely gorgeous foliage plant. Now it's big orange yellow daisy flowers, but it's this foliage which produces a delicious dome up to about 70 centimetres. What do you reckon?
I think that's lovely. That would work wonderfully.
So there's a nice quality to the foliage, beautiful colour tones which pick up the Regersia, and then that lushness somehow just fits with the pond for me.
Yeah.
Now I do prefer more of a moist soil, and I know some of the soil around your pool is a bit drier, so if you can work in some horse manure down to about 60 centimetres, that will hold loads more moisture. This will grow away beautifully.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm here on this remarkable stand. It's Tom Smith's Fruits, and it is the first time I think that I have ever seen an entire orchard inside the floral marquee. Now, I like to have the full range of fruits, and many of them are worth their place just for decoration, but when it comes to just supplying the delicious taste, you've certainly got to have apples and pears, and a really good way to grow them. Even if you think you haven't got any space, you can grow them like this, as espaliers. Now, espaliers just mean that they are trees with the branches trained horizontally, with a gap of about 2 foot between each layer, so you can go up as high as you like, and then cut off when they reach the top of the fence or the wall or the wires that are restraining them. And the fruit that you get from them will taste just as good as they would on the largest tree. Mike, the stand looks fantastic.
Thank you.
What I love about it is that it's loud and proud, yet very stylish. It's open and it's a great stand. Do you think people are growing fruit with the same enthusiasm and perhaps confidence that they should do?
No, because I think fruit is an easy thing to do. I mean, it doesn't need the maintenance of vegetables. No. And if you make a mistake, it comes back next year as well and gives you another chance.
I mean, a lot of people do find and worry about damage from late frosts or early frosts or how they overwinter things. Is that necessary? Should people be anxious about that?
No, I think people can be too anxious about it. The big thing we find is people come to us and say the citrus trees have died. Where'd you keep them? In the conservatory. They don't like conservatories. They don't grow in the conservatories in their own country, do they?
Mind you, your bananas won't take any cold at all, will they?
They're very susceptible to it.
As someone who loves growing fruit and eating it, I hope it inspires people to grow more in their own garden.
That's what it's all about, isn't it?
Good, yeah. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Monty.
Although they do seem to attract slugs and snails like no other plant, everybody loves hostas for their glorious foliage that is both elegant and voluptuous. And we went to Knapp Hill in Surrey to visit a nursery as they prepared their wide range of hostas to bring here to the show for the very first time.
But I had a nursery for 27 years, and then eventually I was forced to relocate. And so I thought, what would I really love to do? And I've always loved hostas, growing hostas, so I thought, here's an opportunity to specialise in hostas. So that's how we came to be here.
Well, I worked at several nurseries before Sienna Hosta, and when the business was set up, got involved and just fell in love with hostas very quickly. Just the diversity of varieties and how you can have ones as small as a teaspoon and some as big as dinner plates, and that just really keeps your attention.
I had a collection of hostas which I started back in the late 1980s and sort of kept on growing that collection, and I think we now have about 850 varieties on the nursery, of which we have 400 odd varieties, on our website. So this is like our inner sanctum. So this is where we keep the oldest and most established plants, beautiful specimens. So when we're getting ready for the shows, sometimes really difficult to choose which ones to take. Do we take a Crosser Regal, a Regal Splendor? Too many to choose from sometimes. This is Hosta Sagae, one of the largest ones we have on the nursery. Sadly too large to take to Gardeners World Live. A plant I've had for 20 plus years. Just a beautiful plant. Huge, huge leaves and a really strong grower.
This is one of my favourites here on the nursery, a Hosta miniskirt, a miniature variety from America. These plants are probably a year and a half old. This is one that I'd highly recommend. This magnificent variety is Hosta Designer Jeans, yellow leaves which really emphasise the red stems. Very popular variety for us. Then here we have Hosta Praying Hands, probably our most popular with such a unique leaf. Most Hosta collectors see it as a must-have. Then also in any Hosta collection, you have to have a blue. They're stunning, the waxy leaves, just so deep and beautiful. We'll certainly be bringing all of these to Gardeners World Live.
Well, hostas are originally from the Korean Peninsula, Japan, China, that sort of part of the world. And then they sort of slowly, with plant hunters, migrated to all over the world, really. Because they're very, very tolerant plants because they grow in all sorts of weather conditions. We have quite a lot of people who collect hostas who sometimes buy the plant because of its quirky name, so which is nice. And so with the different types of mice, for example, funny mouse, church mouse, blue mouse, that goes on and on and on, but they're particularly sought after, the mice, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're feeding your hostas, it's important to choose the right feed. If you want the leaves to get the feed, then it's high nitrogen that you're looking for. If you particularly like the flowers, which some people do, then you want to go with something that's high in potash, like a tomato feed. Then it doesn't need to be too regular, but watch your plants and see what they're telling you. If they're not looking happy, then there's no harm in a bit of feed. With hostas, getting the drainage right is the #1 tip. If you can get that right, the growing medium is not as important. On the nursery, we use a koi bark mix compost, which is peat-free, and it's quite free draining, and it works well for our giants and our miniatures. Miniature varieties really don't like being over wet. It's the quickest way to kill them. If they dry out, you can usually get them back, but if they get too wet, that can be it. So here on the nursery, we use garlic wash as one of our main slug controls. Obviously with Duffy here on the nursery, we don't like using pellets. It's really cheap and easy to make. We just use a glug of the concentrate, which is a couple of cloves of garlic boiled up in a couple of litres of water, and then you just strain out the concentrate into a bottle, and then it's just a glug of that into about 5 litres of water. So we do this roughly once a week, depending on the weather. If it rains, you may want to do it a couple of times a week, but once is usually enough.
Hostas are extremely popular in America. They're the #1 perennial, have been for quite some time. And if the Americans can have a #1 herbaceous plant as a hosta, we're going to do our bit to see if we can bring it.
I don't see why not.
So we're going to push them up there for the UK.
Exactly.
So it's your first time at Gardeners Wildlife. How has it gone?
Nerve-wracking, but really, really exciting.
Good.
It's all good, yeah.
Any particular favourites that people are liking?
Hands up?
Yeah, Hands Up has been really popular.
Really popular.
Just very unique, something different.
Lovely, subtle differences in colour on the leaf, which makes it really special.
It looks like quite a tough one. Is it a little more tough than a normal hosta?
It is. The leaves are a little thicker and a little bit more robust than some hostas.
Yeah. And I'm guessing you're getting the age-old question about the slugs.
Yeah.
People always want to know that, don't they?
Yep.
And the garlic is amazing. Does that really work?
We find on the nursery really, really good.
Yeah, we've printed recipes for people who come just to save our voices. Just because we're saying...
It's the first question on people's
Exactly,
lips when they think of hostas, isn't it?
A lot of things as well. I mean, on our main display, we've got a big hosta in a copper pot.
It's gorgeous.
And copper really works.
So it's
trying to show people what they can really do at home successfully without using pellets.
Well done.
Thank
We're very
you
proud.
so much. And
thank you.
Now here's something I've just discovered. There is this marvellous Aeonium velour, and it's got wonderful sort of ruby colour coming through. But this darker one is also velour, exactly the same plant. And the reason why they've got different colours is because they were kept at different temperatures over winter. Where it was cooler, it stayed darker. But where you had warmth in spring, that has developed that richer burgundy colour. Well, who would have thought that? Yes, always something new to learn. Now, we've still got plenty to come on today's programme. We'll meet the 3rd generation of a family growing award-winning dianthus. Adam is delving further into the small gardens to pick his favourite. And we'll be catching up with the garden designer Chris Myers. If you're short on space, but big on floral ambition, then you'll be glad to know that the beautiful borders are back here at the show. And Mark and Nick have been along to enjoy the very best of them.
Mark, this has got to be one of my favourite bits of the show, all these inspiring raised borders. And there's 29 of them this year.
It's incredible, isn't it? Year on year, there's more of them. And it's just astonishing what can be done in just 8 square metres.
So much inspiration, so many take-home ideas. Should we go and see what we can find?
Definitely. Let's go. This border is called a subterranean sanctuary. It just shows you what you can do in sort of like dark basement flat spaces. Here, the designer has really been clever. She's used this really pale trellis work, which lightens it. And then the planting is really lush and verdant. And just look at this beautiful round reflective pool. This just shows you what can be done with just a little bit of creativity. It's a beautiful garden.
This fantastic living abacus is part of the Schools Out for Summer border. It's completely interactive. Kids can move these kokedama balls about, and then the plants that are used in them represent the mathematical Fibonacci spiral, of course, which occurs so widely in nature. This particular area deals with plant evolution. So long before flowering species were appearing on Earth, there were ferns and mosses. But the bit I'm really excited about is the science section. The kids have grown these plants themselves. And of course you ordinarily would just see the top growth, but by growing them in these giant test tubes, you can see the topsoil, the subsoil, and the subsoil. And it really shows how deeply roots penetrate and how much we need to look after our soils in order to ensure great healthy plants.
The Himalayas in 8 square meters. Just look at that purple palette. It all blends beautifully together. From the Primula vialii to Panula pink octopus with these little tendrils dangling down. So we come from the sunnier part of the Himalayas down to the more shady parts where we have this lovely silver birch. And what's so great about all these plants is that they'll grow in our own garden. But more importantly, they're great for the bees.
This bed just goes to prove that you can create a meadow effect in the smallest of spaces. By running Stipa tenuissima all the way through the planting, the designer has created this meadow feel. The real star for me here is the Nigella. It's a hardy annual which you can sow at the start of the season, produces these beautiful blooms and then spectacular seed pods which last all the way into autumn.
I really enjoyed looking around the smaller gardens earlier on, and then somebody said I had to choose a favourite, which was a really tough thing to do. But this one, for me, just about edged it. It's inspired by a trip to Australia, and yeah, it's a shame they couldn't influence the weather. As a garden design, it works really well. It's simple, it's subtle. The spaces are well balanced. You look at the colours of the grey and that sets a tone, and of the proportions of the paving slabs. Look at the fence and it demonstrates that we don't have to accept those normal old fencing panels that can be quite boring. You can create something that's got a real 3D effect to it. The arbour at the end of the garden would be a really powerful focal point. It feels a good space to be in as a piece of design. As I said, it's simple, but it's slick and it's cool.
I think one of the very best things about flower shows is having a look what people are carting round in the trolleys, what they bought.
Being nosy, you mean? I'm going to go and have a look this way.
Right, in that case I'm going in the opposite direction. Oh, there's some lovely stuff here, look at this. That's a hardy fuchsia. Whose is that?
That's mine.
That's yours.
Yes.
Easy from cutting, so you'll be able to.
What have you got there then?
All sorts, a real mixture.
Salvia.
Salvia.
Scabiosa.
And a verbascum. Yeah. Nice. I don't know about the pink trolley with it. I don't know. Is it? How do you feel about that? It's sort of framed by this plastic pink trolley.
As long as I pick it, that's fine.
Is that how it's going to work in the garden?
Yeah.
Ooh, what beautiful peonies. So who's the plants person then?
Me.
Yeah?
Yeah, and I love peonies. But last year I bought what, Molly the Witch.
Lockersavicii you call that, but people shorten it to Molly the Witch because it's easier to say.
Yeah.
Ragged Robin?
Yes.
That needs a little bit of damp soil. Have you got a bit of damp soil?
We have.
What, in this weather everyone's got
Everybody
damp soil?
has.
Your trolley's not full.
No,
How are you going to get some more?
We're sort of running out of space in the garden now, so.
Oh, you never run out of space in the garden.
You've both got these lovely maples.
Oh, I've got two or
You're
three
you're the maple sisters.
Oh, no.
Get those in the ground, keep them well
Oh,
watered.
definitely. We just need a bigger trolley.
There are lots of new varieties and plants at the show this year, but one that's caught my eye on Hardy's Cottage Plants is this wonderful Digitalis Firebird. It is a cracker. I love the colour of it and its shape of this flower with these beautiful throat, this yellow throat with all of these lovely dots of burgundy colours on it. But this Digitalis is perennial. after all of this wonderful flowering, you can cut down the stem and you'll start to get all of these side shoots and more flowers. So I think this is going to be fabulous in any border where there's dapple shade or shade. It does need a lot of feeding, so it will enjoy a rich, fertile soil, but you can just sit back and enjoy it, really. I think it's a fabulous addition to any planting scheme. Kalamazag Plant Nursery in Cornwall specialise in growing a wide variety of alpines and species dianthus. We caught up with husband and wife team Stephen and Benedict in their nursery in Looe, preparing for the show.
We're on the southeast coast. We're about half a mile from the sea, so just outside of Looe.
Let's have a little walk. Let's have a little walk.
My grandparents actually retired down here just after the war, so they came down in, I think, sort of late 40s, early 50s. My granny was very keen on flower arranging, so she used to grow different types of dianthuses, so we used to grow up around a lot of them. My dad liked doing more this sort of like the pot sort of plant, so we just sort of did a lot more of that than the cutting. And there's so many more varieties as well now, along with the different species, so we're just doing more and more of them.
Definitely the Cranmere Pool would go. Look at those.
Yeah.
Dianthus is a huge range. There are actually over 300 species of dianthus. We specialise in quite a lot of different varieties, from shorter alpine varieties through to the varieties that you would use for cut flowers, and also a lot of species varieties, a lot of seed-grown varieties, such as this Dianthus carthusianorum.
One of our native species is the cheddar pink, which is obviously found in Cheddar and at the Cheddar Gorge. It was nearly made extinct by the Victorians, and with their enthusiasm for collecting it, it's now obviously a protected species. It's a very, very attractive plant, and a very, very highly scented plant that we're actually growing now ourselves. And we've actually been breeding one which we've named after our son Freddie, which is this one here. And we're hoping we've sort of been slowly increasing the numbers of it, and it smells absolutely amazing.
So this variety that I'm picking up here for the show is Fusilier, and this is an alpine scented variety. It's very easy to grow, free draining soil, sunny spot. It'll flower and flower once it starts, which is around about sort of June time. It'll flower and flower until late on in the season.
This is the cheddar pink. We've been growing this one on now quite a bit, so it's starting to get a little bit tatty, and some of the flowers are going over. So what we do is you take some of these flowers away. Pinks actually get their name not from a colour, but because they have frilly edges, and actually that's where the name pinking shears when clothes making actually comes from, is from the frilly edges of the plant. One of the great things about the pinks is you can snip off just a few of the flowers, stick them in a little vase in the house, and you get the whole house smells lovely of cloves.
A lot of the dianthus that we grow have got quite interesting names. This one in particular, Arctic Star. This is an alpine variety. We believe this got its name from the Arctic Star medal that was given out to Atlantic convoy seamen during the Second World War. It's got beautiful double scented white flowers, very, very long flowering season. If you deadhead and feed this plant, it'll just continue to flower right throughout the season.
When you want to take a cutting from a dianthus, you want to get a nice healthy looking shoot, but you don't want a flowering stem. So then you just cut it off, and there you go. So just strip off any really lower leaves just so they don't rot off in the soil. Depending on how hard your stem is, you simply make a hole, pop it in, make sure it's nice and firm, and then when you've got all your cuttings done, then you put some nice, fresh water on the top. Keep it moist, but doesn't want to be waterlogged, and preferably not in full sun. So these are some cuttings that I did about 8 weeks ago, so they're now ready to be potted up. So they'll go into, you've got a nice mix of multi-purpose compost and slow-release fertiliser, and you just get your pot and do that. So when you pot up your plant, you don't want to bury it. You want to keep the top of the plug, the cutting, at the same height as the top of your soil. After about 8 weeks, you should end up with a plant like this, but to get a plant like this, you need to pinch out the central stem, otherwise you'll just end up with a very spindly plant. So if you pinch it out, and you'll end up with a bushier plant, and we'll get lots and lots of flowers on it for you.
Some of the stories that we've found about dianthus has been really funny, such as the Mrs. Sintkin here, which is a Victorian pink, and that was bred by a gentleman called John Sintkin from Slough. And he bred this initially for Queen Victoria, and it was supposed to be named after Queen Victoria. But his wife, I think, put her foot down and insisted he name it after her. So it became Mrs. Sintkin, and it's a very famous plant.
They have lots of different uses and associations. Traditionally, as a flower, the cut pinks are known for being associated with the first wedding anniversary as well.
In Korea, they have a family day where Dad wears a red, Mum wears a pink. Certain countries have got an association as well with pinks and carnations, such as Spain. Their national flower is a red carnation. All right.
Yeah, looking nice, aren't they?
We go to these shows. We're a very small nursery in a very remote location, and we very much specialise in this plant group. So to be able to go and exhibit at these shows gives us a great opportunity to talk to the public and, you know, hopefully get our passion out there about these and how great they are and how they can grow them.
Stephen, it's great to see you and your passion here, and it's all exploded onto that stand because it looks fantastic.
Thank you, Harriet. It's been an awful lot of hard work. Benedict has done me proud, I think, here. She's back there at the nursery working pretty hard, getting all the orders out, and obviously I've come up here to show this off. It's been really well received by the public, so we're really happy.
It's so lovely that it's 3 generations. How does that make you feel?
Very proud. It's great, yeah, and hopefully it might be 4 generations.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah, that would be really good. Tell me what's been popular at the show so far.
Well, I think without a doubt I've got a cracking little sort of alpine dianthus called Silver Star, which is a great white with a little sort of maroon eye, and that's very heavily scented and grows beautifully in sort of rockeries and walls and whatnot, so that will definitely prove popular this week, I'm sure.
Well, if only there was smell-o-vision, because it certainly does smell amazing.
Yeah, it's a shame you can't send it through the TV screen to people, I think. But sure, when they come, they'll see what I'm saying.
There'll be plenty of visitors coming to the show, but if they're new to dianthus, what sort of other plants can they plant with it?
We'd say if you've got things like roses, maybe lavenders, anything really, any plant where you've got good free-draining soil, put some dianthus with them, because you'll get flower right the way through the summer and late into the autumn.
That's true, and also that wonderful scent that it brings as well. Yeah, I like that.
Look at what I have just found here. This is Punica granatum, better known as the pomegranate, and it's just a seedling of what will ultimately become a small tree or a large shrub. Now, surprisingly, it will grow outdoors in the UK in a sheltered site, and it will also crop. And this is one of just over 100 small trees that you can buy on this stand. This is Decaisnia, or the blue sausage tree. It comes from Asia. It has these beautiful blue, hanging almost sort of banana-like pods, and they're a really strong electric blue. It looks absolutely exotic, but it's completely hardy. The most exciting plant here for me is this, which is Citrus trifoliata. It's utterly hardy. You can grow it and train it flat against a wall or allow it to go free form. And its fruits are extraordinary. They're furry, and if you can prise them open, they've got a grapefruit-like quality in terms of their flavour. All round, a real winner. There's some real gems tucked away on this stand. Now, most people tend to think that palms are really tender plants that won't grow in most parts of the UK, but that's just not true, is it?
No, it's not true at all. They can take the cold They can go down to about -15, -16, some of the species do, but dry. Wet and cold, not very happy, but cold and dry, more happy.
So the message really is for growing things like the palms and the agaves, drainage, sharp drainage is key. Okay, so if you were to recommend a palm that most people will be able to get hold of locally and is relatively hardy, what would you go for?
See, I like the Booty capitata.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I'm captivated by a garden full of nostalgia, combining the edible with the ornamental. It's the Dahlia and Veg Garden, and it's been put together by Terry Porter and John Wheatley. It's also given John the opportunity to showcase some brilliant new dahlias. I just think this is one of the most wonderful displays I've ever seen. Full of dahlias. I mean, once upon a time, you would have grown your dahlias on the allotment, wouldn't you?
Grandad on the allotment, it's the most common thing you ever hear at any of these shows.
Yeah. But nowadays, they've become much more fashionable.
They're a very fashionable plant. And we created this whole range of pollinator-friendly, dark foliage dahlias that are very popular.
It's glorious, and I can just imagine being a bee and zooming straight in there. It's so accessible.
They're perfect for pollinators.
There's such a range of colours.
Oh, a fantastic range of colours in these dark ones.
Kaleidoscopic.
That's right. It's a great thing about the dahlias, the colour.
You've sold them. And that one in the bath isn't bad either, is she?
No, that's one of my ambitions achieved. That's Carol Klein in the bath.
To accompany Rachel Detain and Joe Swift, which
Yes.
you've already bred. It's a huge honour to be in such elated company. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Did you know that Birmingham has more canals than Venice? Well, to celebrate that fact, this year there's a show garden inspired by 2 Canal and River Trust volunteer lockkeepers. We went to meet them to find out more.
We've always been keen on boats and sailing, always loved the water.
It's something we enjoy. It's good for our health and well-being just being here.
The connection between gardening and well-being and mental health is very well rehearsed, but this is just like a big long garden, and we've got lots and lots of water, which is very tranquil and nice. And if you see some pretty flowers, it just makes you smile.
These are the Kerber locks. There's 11 of them. They stretch over 3 miles. This is the old corridor into Birmingham. You can hear the noise from the modern corridor, the M42, alongside us here. The whole idea of us doing the garden came about 12 months ago. We look after the locks, we paint them, we cut the grass. In the winter, we cut the hedges as well. So it was a way to come out into the countryside, meet people, and feel we were giving something back. We were recommended to try Chris Myers as a garden designer, so we're delighted when he said he'd join us.
When I first visited Curdworth and met David and Hilary, the initial impression I got of them was that they were incredibly passionate about the canals and about getting people to the canal to experience it, because they think it's such an amazing place. And do you know what? It is.
We've built some temporary ponds, and we're growing on some of the water plants that Chris will use in the garden. These ones we've cut up ready, so they're only 1 metre, so they're liftable because they're so heavy because they're waterlogged. But we'll be taking them in metre chunks and putting them in the side of the canal. We're building some of the structures within our workshop, and we've got the help of a lot of volunteers from other areas for the actual build-up.
Whilst wandering down that canal and seeing the wildflowers in the grasses and the red brickwork, nature around me, it all kind of started to form in my mind. And I felt like we could actually create something that looked quite architectural with the red brick, but bring the natural world in around that. And I thought, yeah, this could really work. Okay. To me, the biggest challenge was when we arrived on site, it was actually making the canal fit within the landscape. So we had to do quite a bit of work with the digger just to make sure it was dug out level and we didn't have any issues with water running over the end of the canal escaping into the ground. It's really starting to come together well. Putting the water plants in today has really softened that red brick. It's kind of fused everything together.
Striking.
Yes, if I get that, you two fronties let go. Yep. Back one's let down. Right. You guys said it was heavy. That's it, thank you.
We're using a bit of black paint, sir. Some good quality mud and a bit of adhesive.
We turn up on the day and you never actually know what you're going to be doing. We take Chris's direction.
For me, designing a garden at Gardeners World Live is all about the guys who come to the show. They like something that's very real, and I think it's really going to tick their boxes.
But one of the bits of magic from Chris is the way he's got all the ivy and grass all growing in the brickwork, and his vision for that was wonderful.
And it's to go and get the atmosphere of the canal so people naturally calm down and feel restful by water. And especially during the hustle and bustle of the show, I think will be a little oasis of calm.
Well, the major bit that's missing is the boat. We've got the tunnel, all we need is the boat coming out. That's the next stage in the jigsaw.
This is the Leggers hut. It's now been stoned up, or well, we say stoned up in Yorkshire, but it's been bricked up, and that's given it a real sort of third dimension. And then to give it the feel that it has always been there, we've popped plants and bits of moss into the mortar. I see this plant here growing out of the stonework around the canals in Yorkshire, and I know it as ivy-leaf toadflax, and they call it Kenilworth ivy down here. We've also got a rusty back fern, and we've also got a maidenhair fern. Now, the rusty back fern is quite unique, as in it's only ever been found in walls and structures around the canals of Britain. And the thinking is the fact that it likes the lime mortar, it likes alkaline environments. There's an element of humidity around the canal, so that's also suiting it. And also, it's possible that it was actually brought in on a barge through transporting goods around. A bit of the plants come in, ended up in a wall, it's thrived there, and that's how it's spread. So having walked down the towpath at Curdworth and spotting all these beautiful wild flowers on the canal side, I thought, well, that's going to be the perfect way to soften our canal. So I've been growing this since April, and it basically has all the species that I spotted at the side of the canal. We've got buttercups, we've got the plantains that have actually already flowered and finished, and then just coming through here, and it's absolutely full of these, is red clover. The canal side, when I visited last year, was just a sea of red clover, and there were bees and butterflies buzzing around there. It's great for nature, that, isn't it? We've got a load of ferns and foxgloves to put into the wild, woody, woolly area, as I call it. We've also got the garden outside the Leggers hut to plant. That's very cottage garden feel, but we've got to get it right, and I want it to look like it's been a cottage garden for years. So there's going to be a bit of work in that. The first ever show garden I did was 15 years ago, and it was a canal-themed garden. Now, it won gold and best in show, and that kicked off my career as a designer. I was just somebody else's gardener at the time. So this is very much a trip down memory lane for me. To come back here and do another canal garden after all that time, it's fantastic.
Chris, the garden looks great. It looks like it's been here forever, which is a real trick, isn't it?
Yeah, I wanted to create a garden that looked like it'd been here forever, like a canal does, and I wanted people to come and say, hang on a minute, was that here before? And they're actually saying that.
And they just blocked it off at either end as well. How was it working with the volunteers?
Initially, it was quite scary. When you do a show garden, you're generally working with plants people, landscapers who were at the top of their game. The volunteers were all very new to this. Looking at the garden, it is an amazing tribute to the hard work they've put in. It looks brilliant, and I'm really proud of them.
Yeah, and the feedback from the visitors is great. These canal sites are important spaces, aren't they? They're very important for the environment, biodiversity, and for us, for well-being, which
Absolutely,
is the whole point behind this garden.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time as a teenager by the canals, and I absorbed all the nature around me without even knowing it. And now I take my kids for a walk down the canal, and it just chills us out. We love it.
I thought you were just going to fill the whole garden with one narrow boat and there was going to be no space for anything else. But it's in proportion, isn't it?
That's it. That was the whole idea of using a boat that size. It fits perfectly within this environment.
There's been so much water during the build. I guess you just put the liner in and let it fill up by itself.
No, I actually woke up in the middle of the night a few nights ago when it was pouring down with rain, and I just had a nightmare that the canal had overflowed and washed all the plants away.
Well, it's still here. Congratulations. It looks great.
Thank you very much.
Well done.
Gardeners World Live, my two favourite things, shopping and plants.
Oh, that is a dangerous combination.
It certainly is, but should we go and get nosy and see what people have been buying?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, see you later. Hello, look at these Bobby Dazzlers. Great colours, and of course they have these lovely seed heads and be able to collect the seeds afterwards
That's
as well.
the idea for next year.
You've done this before, haven't you?
I've got my greenhouses full already with about 200 foxgloves.
Hello, hello, hello. What's going on here then? Two of you turfed out.
My mum.
Your mum? Just to make room for more plants? Yeah. So what have you got? You've got a lovely campanula?
Yeah.
Is that pink octopus?
It is, yeah. We were looking for a blue one as well, but we can't find a blue one.
For the digitalis, I like to encourage bees to come to the garden. Yeah.
Cool. And is it your first time at the show?
No, I'll come every year.
You do?
Yes.
And go home with a load of plants?
Yes.
That's what it's all about, isn't it?
It is.
I wanted some ground coverage, so...
This is a good one. Can you pronounce him?
No. Rhodopopsis.
Well done. Well done. They are a lovely plant. You'll get a succession of starry flowers.
And I'm hoping next year there'll be even more.
There will be.
After that.
That's
yeah,
it. They'll bulk up and they'll bulk up and they'll spread.
Lovely.
Lovely stand. It looks amazing. So what are some of these plants here?
Right, well first of all we've got the bluebell creeper here, the solia, which will grow down to about -5, -10 with good drainage, sun or shade. And of course the oleander, we call it oleander but the proper name is Nerium oleander. Again, I've had these as low as -12.
Really?
Yes, with the drainage, absolutely. As long as they're in that good drained soil, you will not go wrong with them.
That's amazing.
Hello. What have you bought? It's an interesting mix you've got going on here, isn't it?
The thing I'm the most excited about, I bought some marines called Stephanie, which is my name.
You bought a lot.
From a new garden.
So you have a new garden?
Looking at a new house, so...
you bought the plants before the house!
Oh my gosh, look at this, look at this.
I've got a begonia. Yeah. And it's a big one.
It is a big one.
It's a Danny boy.
A Danny boy?
No, I'm called Danny, so yeah.
So it's a perfect match. You like growing begonias?
I've got 10 left out of 15 what come back
That's
this
right.
year, which
That's
are
good. Yeah.
coming back again, so yeah.
Very good.
I do like them.
Right, be honest with me. Yeah. Are they yours or are you just carrying the bags?
I'm just carrying a bag.
Exactly. You've got some Echinopsis.
Yep.
Wow. Got good taste, your missus, mate. She has.
It has been a good show, and even the weather hasn't been that bad, has it?
No, I mean, it's not raining now. Fingers crossed.
It probably will. And amongst all the things that have been here, what have you singled out as being your favourite thing?
It's very hard to pick one thing horticulturally, but I would say the thing that sets this show apart from others is actually the atmosphere, the people. Everyone's so engaged, they're buzzing, they're really enjoying being here and getting involved, and it's just lovely to see.
It is that combination of people feeling relaxed and yet engaged,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yes.
Well, so it should be. This is our show. So come along, enjoy it. It's on till Sunday night. You may well see some of us, and we will be back next week at 8:30. I will be at Longmeadow with Nigel and Melly.
And I will be at an allotment with some wildlife, so that's quite exciting.
It is very exciting. So join us then. Till then, bye-bye.
How can a street of families in Bristol reduce the amount of single-use plastic in their lives? Hugh and Anita face quite a battle. Watch now on BBC iPlayer. Drama next, and the pressure's starting to mount on everybody. It's The Looming Tower.